had a lot of big moves happen in the 2024 offseason, and we've gotten to see a solid sample size so far from these moves to start off the 2025 NBA season. And I wanted to put a letter grade on how these big moves from last offseason have done so far. All right, so let's start off with the big trade that happened to start off the offseason, and that was between crosstown rivals, the New York Knicks and the Brooklyn Nets. And this trade sent Mikal Bridges to New York for basically Bojan Bogdanovic, some other salary filler, 6 total first-round picks, and one of those are included a pick swap. So basically, Brooklyn is going to own the Knicks first-round picks in 2025, 2027, 2029, 2031. The New York Knicks first in 2028 is going to be a swap, so Brooklyn's going to get the better of those 2 picks, and Brooklyn also gets Milwaukee's pick this year if it's not within the top 4. All right, so I'll get this out of the way. It's an easy A+ for Brooklyn. I love this trade when they made it at the time, and this year it's proving why that this was the right move to make at the perfect time. Even with coming off somewhat of a down year in his first full season in Brooklyn, they were able to sell high on Mikal Bridges, and getting this return is going to do wonders for them. Even if some of these picks are never really going to be good picks, like you expect the Knicks picks, at least within the next couple of years, to probably be in the 20s, this is still the right decision for Brooklyn because this year they're able to see more out of their veterans like Dennis Schroeder, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and they're showcasing that they could net the Nets, no pun intended, a good return if they decide to move them at the deadline because Schroeder's been playing well, Cam Johnson's been playing well, but then you're also seeing what you can get out of these guys because a guy like Cam Johnson may be perfect as a complementary piece to their first round pick that they get in the 2025 draft, and they were not able to get their first round picks back from Houston if they didn't simultaneously make this trade with the New York Knicks. So I think that was an A+ trade at the time. It's an A+ trade so far because for the New York Knicks, I'm going to give it a C+. Now, Mikal Bridges, I think, has actually been fine offensively. He's actually an above average shooter basically everywhere on the floor outside of above the break threes. He is not hitting those at a good rate to start off this season. He's averaging 16.5 points, 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists. He's shooting 48% from the field, 32% from 3 on about 6.5 attempts a night, and then he's shooting just 63% from the line. He's got a career low free throw rate right now, but the big concern is Mikal Bridges' defense. Now, he was a top 5 defender in the NBA in the 2022 season. Last year, we saw his defense drop off a little bit, but I thought it was going to rebound because he didn't have to put all his effort in on the offensive end of the floor anymore. He's not a number 1 or number 2 option offensively for the Knicks, so I thought he could focus more and use more of his energy on defense, and that has not been the case. He has not been a great on-ball defender this year. The Knicks team defense as a whole is better when he's off the floor, and I don't think his offensive production so far has justified the poor defensive play. Now, I think he's going to be fine over the course of this season. I think you're just looking at this in the sphere that the Knicks gave up 6 potential first-round picks for Mikal Bridges, who's more of a secondary guy to them, and is it going to be this elite defender? It's going to hurt that value in that trade a little bit more. But obviously, if the Knicks win a title with Mikal Bridges on their team, it's going to make the trade an A+ no matter what. Now, Paul George signed one of the biggest contracts last offseason. He was the biggest name to switch teams in free agency so far through 6 games in Philadelphia. I'm going to give it a C. It's a pretty neutral grade so far. Paul George, though, is 34 years old. He's going to be 35 years old at the end of the season. I mentioned when they signed him that I didn't really love the steal on the back half of that because I don't think he's going to age particularly well, given that he's going to be making $50+ million when he's 36 and 37 years old. Now, we got hurt in the preseason, so I know he hasn't been great to start off the year. 16.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 5 assists. He's shooting 39% from the field and 31% from 3. And he has not been a great defender this year. The Sixers have been better when he's off the floor defensively, and it's also funny to see that Jared McCain is playing better than him. You would say Tyrese Maxey played somewhat better than him before he got hurt. And the 76ers have had their own issues this year with injuries with Embiid, Paul George, who we just talked about, Maxey, all being banged up at certain points. So we've yet to see this team at full strength. I think this contract is going to be fine. Like I said, throughout the first 2 years, I think it's going to be better than a C grade throughout year 1 in Philadelphia. How funny would be, though, if it just ended up being a Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey 2.0, with Paul George being Tobias Harris on a bad contract, and Jared McCain ended up being better than Paul George at the end of that deal. Another big trade that just shocked everybody was late in the offseason, where the New York Knicks sent a future first-round pick from Detroit. It was protected. Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, we'll grade this on the Knicks side first. I think so far this has been an A grade for New York. Karl-Anthony Towns has arguably been the best Knicks so far. He's averaging 26 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists. He's shooting 54% from the field, 50% from 3, and 84% from the line. He's having his best offensive season since the 2022 year, where he ended up on All-NBA third team. Karl-Anthony Towns has really been carrying this Knicks offense at times, with Jalen Brunson being somewhat inconsistent to start off this season. Because the Karl-Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson pick and roll has been a nightmare for teams to defend because you can't play drop coverage. You can't sag off on either one of them because Jalen Brunson has still been a good 3-point shooter this year, and Karl-Anthony Towns is knocking down 50% of his threes This is exactly why the Knicks wanted to get Cat. And there have been disappointments with Karl-Anthony Towns, and I mentioned before Mikal Bridges and the Knicks defense. They are the 21st ranked defensive team in the league this year, but they are the 3rd ranked offense. And I think they're going to be around a top 5, top 7 offense all year long. It's going to be interesting to see, though, how much better this team gets on defense, or are they going to be around a bottom 10 team defensively in the NBA? As for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I'm going to give this a B. Now, there was a larger reason why they wanted to make this trade. They felt like they were going to be a second apron team if they wanted to extend Rudy Gobert, which they did, and they want to extend most likely Naz Reid at the end of the year. Julius Randle has been good so far, and he's definitely exceeding my expectations for him this season because he's coming off a major injury. He had a cup of coffee in the preseason, and he's looked really good so far. He had a nice game winner against the Phoenix Suns the other night, and Randle this year is averaging 21.5 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. He's shooting 50% from the field and 38% from 3. And it is funny that Timberwolves fans are kind of getting used to Julius Randle on his defensive lapses sometimes, because sometimes he may get frustrated with the refs offensively. He doesn't get back defensively, but I would say overall, with all things considered, Randle in this new environment has been solid. And I would say Donte DiVincenzo has been the main reason for disappointment, and it's maybe feeling like the Timberwolves were just better off staying with the team they had. DiVincenzo this year, his shot has not looked like what it has from last year. He's averaging just 9.5 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, but he's shooting just 34% from the field and 32% from 3. He shot 40% from 3 last year. He's taking about a 3.5 less per game this year, and his overall offensive production hasn't looked great. Now, I do think DiVincenzo impacts the game in a bunch of different ways. He's a good off-ball player. He's a good transition player, and I still think he's a good defender. And I believe his shot is eventually going to fall over the course of this year, and he's still on a fantastic contract that the Knicks signed him to in that 2023 offseason. A big change in free agency was Isaiah Hartenstein signing with the Oklahoma City Thunder. I can't really put a grade on this right now because we haven't seen Hartenstein at all throughout the regular season, but it's looking like he's going to come back very soon. We had a notable trade in the offseason where it was a 1-for-1 player trade. Josh Giddey got traded from Oklahoma City to Chicago, and Alex Caruso from Chicago to Oklahoma City. For the Josh Giddey Chicago side of things, I'm going to give it a C because I think Giddey has been fine offensively, and he's actually been a good 3-point shooter this year. He's shooting 37% from 3. He's averaging 12 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists a night. And it's interesting to see Josh Giddey shooting the best 3-point shot he's had of his career so far, but the defense is exactly why OKC wanted to get rid of him. He has not been a good defender whatsoever for Chicago this year. He's been one of the worst defenders in the league, in my opinion. He does impact the games in different ways, though. He's a good playmaker. He's a good rebounder for his position. So I'm going to keep it at a neutral C right now. He's a restricted free agent at the end of the year, and I don't think he's really proven too much that he's going to be in Chicago's long-term plans 100%. As for OKC and Alex Caruso, I'm going to give this a B. Alex Caruso has been one of the worst offensive players in the league this year. He's shooting 30% from the field, 21% from 3, 71% from the line. He's averaging 4 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists a night. He's already dealing with a hip injury, which is unfortunate, but the reason why I'm going to give this a B relative to Josh Giddey C is because Caruso has still been one of the best guard defenders in the NBA, and that's exactly why OKC got him. I don't think he's going to shoot 30% from the field and 21% from 3 throughout the course of this season, and that's what's knocking him down from an A to a B, because he's playing A grade level defense, but it's been arguably F caliber offense. So I'm going to put it at a B because this is why OKC wanted Alex Caruso for his defense. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope signed a 3-year, $60 million contract with the Orlando Magic in the offseason. I'm also going to give this a C, kind of on the Alex Caruso scale, because I do believe KCP has been a good defender for Orlando, and I think they are better with him on the floor, and he's providing that veteran leadership that they definitely needed from last year's team. But his offense has not been good. He's averaging 7 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists. He's shooting 33% from the field and 23% from 3, and he's really struggled to find his shot this season. So that's why I'm going to give it a C. I don't think he's been playing as good of defense as Alex Caruso. Like, I would say Alex Caruso's defense has been an A and his offense has been an F. I would say KCP's defense has been a B and his offense has been a D. So I'm going to throw it right there in the middle as a C. But for $20 million a year for the next 3 years, you definitely want KCP to play better, mainly on the offensive side of the floor, because come playoff time, he's going to need to hit big time shots like he did for Denver in 2023 and not what he did for Denver in last year's playoffs, the most recent one in our mind. It's interesting though, because there were 6 big head coaching changes in the offseason, and all 6 of them I'd give an A to. Now, JJ Redick looks like one of the best head coaching hires of last year's cycle. I mean, they took a big risk hiring JJ Redick with no coaching experience. In the Lakers this year, they've not been a good defensive team, but they've been a top 5 offensive team in this league, and he's getting something out of LeBron James at 39, and obviously that's more on LeBron than JJ Redick. But this team, I don't think, is as good as it should be as a 9-4 record. Through his first 13 games, Anthony Davis has looked like an MVP candidate. Austin Reeves looks like he's bouncing back this season. Hopefully we could see Max Christie continue to develop over the course of the season. And there's been plenty of injuries injuries and disappointments for the Lakers so far, so 9-4, you definitely take that. As for the Cleveland Cavaliers and Kenny Atkinson, this one may be an A+. You probably have to give it an A+ too, because they are 15-0 to start off the year. They're a top 10 defense. They've been the best offensive team in terms of offensive rating this season. Darius Garland looks like he's back. Evan Mobley's developing. Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell look like what they've done in the past. Max Strus has been banged up, but they're getting great play out of Ty Jerome, Karis LeVert, Dean Wade, Sam Morril on offense, Isaac Okoro overall. This Cavs team probably shouldn't be 15-0 with its talent, right? This is still a good team in the Eastern Conference, but 15-0 is putting them in 2016 Warriors territory. So I think, yeah, Kenny Atkinson has done a great job and looks like the best head coaching hire so far. It's kind of wild. He hasn't gotten a job since turning around that Nets team in 2019. And then shout out to Charles Lee in Charlotte, Jordy Fernandez in Brooklyn, Mike Budenholzer in Phoenix, and JB Bickerstaff in Detroit. I think they've all done a great job as well. Now let's talk about the Sacramento Kings picking up DeMar DeRozan in a sign and trade. We're just going to talk about Sacramento Kings side of things. I mean, I love San Antonio orchestrating this, getting a future first round pick down the line for basically just taking on Harrison Barnes' contract. And for Chicago getting a couple seconds, maybe not the best when they could have traded him last year at the deadline. But for DeMar DeRozan on the Kings, I think this has been an A. I don't think DeMar DeRozan has really lost a step this year. He's averaging 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists a night. He's shooting 52% from the field, 40% from three at a career high rate. He is 35 years old. He did suffer a back injury semi-recently, which is a little concerning because he played the most minutes in the NBA last year for the Chicago Bulls at around 38 minutes a night. This year, he's playing 36 minutes a night. I think Mike Brown has to chill out a little bit with playing DeMar DeRozan because he's getting up there in age, and you need him when the games matter most in April, May, and June. Because if you can get what we've seen from DeRozan so far in his first 12 games as a King in the playoffs, it's going to be exactly why Sacramento wanted to pick him up last year in free agency. Another A+ signing so far has to be Buddy Hield of the Golden State Warriors. He's averaging 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists to start off his Warriors career. He's shooting 49% from the field, 47% from 3 on 8 attempts a night, 86% from the line. He's mainly coming off the bench, and he's got to be up there in 6 Man of the Year conversations right now. And he's fitting like a glove perfectly in this Golden State offense, and he's showing why he was one of the best value free agency signings in last year's free agency cycle. Tobias Harris for the Detroit Pistons, I'm going to give this a D+. Tobias Harris has now looked like he's been worth $50+ million that the Pistons gave him in free agency. The Pistons have been better as a team overall, but that's mainly because of the development of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. Other veterans like Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway Jr. have been better for Detroit offensively than Tobias Harris. He's averaging 13 points, 8 rebounds. He's shooting 44% from the field and 29% from 3. But honestly, I think you take the trade-off of Tobias Harris not being the most efficient player in the world with the team success this year in Detroit, because they look so much better this year than they did last year. I think Chris Paul has been an A signing for the San Antonio Spurs. He's averaging 10 points, 4 rebounds, 8.5 assists to start off the year. He's shooting 46% from the field, 38% from 3. He's made guys around him look so much better, like Julian Champagnie, Malachi Branham, obviously Wemby and Jeremy Sohan before he got hurt. And if the Spurs are somehow out of it at the trade deadline, he definitely looks like he can get something in return for San Antonio if they decide to move on from the veteran in February. But this is still one of the better moves, especially on a 1-year deal from the signing last summer. It was kind of a shocking trade when Washington sent Deni Avdija to Portland in exchange for Malcolm Brogdon, the 14th overall pick, and a future first. And so far, I'm going to give Washington an A grade for this deal. If they didn't move Deni, there were probably not going to be enough opportunity for Bilal, their 14th overall pick. They got in the straight Bub Carrington, who looks really good off the start. Malcolm Brogdon could either be a veteran piece for them or could just be a trade candidate at the deadline. And then you add in a future first round pick. It looks like Washington sold high on Deni. So yeah, it's an A grade from me. I don't know if Deni really would have made this team that much more exciting this year. I did enjoy watching Deni Avdija last year, but I am enjoying this new Wizards offense with Jordan Poole bouncing back, Bilal Coulibaly taking another step, and seeing the rookies, which those guys probably wouldn't have gotten as much opportunity if Deni Avdija was still on this team. As for Portland, I may be generous here, but I'm going to give it a C grade. Deni has been abysmal on the offensive end of the floor. He's shooting just 35% from the field, 25% from 3. He's averaging 9.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 3.5 assists so far. But he has been getting better as of late, and the three-point shot is starting to fall a little bit more, and I still like Deni Avdija as an offensive player in this league, and I feel like it's really tough to stand out defensively on this Blazers squad right now under Chauncey Billups. So I think the team has bigger problems than Deni Avdija, who's still on a very favorable contract in this league, so it's going to stay as a C for Portland. A big trade that seemed inevitable in the offseason happened when Dejounte Murray got traded from Atlanta to New Orleans in exchange for Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance, the Lakers' first-round pick, and a future first down the line. So for New Orleans, I'm going to give this an incomplete. Dejounte Murray got hurt in his first game this season, so I can't make a fair assessment on that trade so far for them, but it hurts a little bit seeing Dyson Daniels ball out in Atlanta, and that's going to transition into me giving Atlanta an A letter grade for this trade. Dyson Daniels, the great barrier thief, has looked amazing on the defensive end of the floor this year. He's averaging 15 points offensively, 4.5 rebounds, 3 assists. He's shooting 47% from the field. He's averaging 3.7 steals a night. He's leading the NBA in deflections as well. And he has been the breakout defensive player this year. I know there's a lot going on in Houston with Tari Eason and Amen Thompson, but in Atlanta, I think they found their perfect backcourt partner next to Trae Young and Dyson Daniels. So that alone is giving them an A. And I really like what Larry Nance Jr. has done this year as a veteran, as a screener for this team. I think he could net them a couple of draft picks, maybe a couple seconds at the deadline if they decide to move him. And then you're going to have the Lakers first round pick this year, and you get another first rounder for this trade. And it seems like it was addition by subtraction, getting rid of Dejounte Murray. And this seems like the right move for Atlanta going forward. And the last signing I want to talk about is Klay Thompson going to the Dallas Mavericks. I'm going to give this a C+. Klay got off to a good start in Dallas, but overall he's been somewhat inconsistency with his shot this season. He is averaging 13.5 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 2 assists, but he's shooting just 39% from the field, and 35% from 3 is still good on 8.5 attempts a night, but you'd like that to be a little bit better for Klay Thompson in his role in this Dallas offense. And he's been even worse from 3 if you look at his last 11 games for Dallas. He's shooting 31% from 3 on 7.7 attempts a night. So definitely going to be keeping an eye on Klay Thompson this year, but the Mavericks have been better with Klay Thompson on the floor. So yeah, it's just something to keep an eye on throughout year 1 in Dallas. So that's gonna be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you think about these grades and just these pickups from last offseason down below. Drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy. Hit that subscribe button for NBA content all season long, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.